trouble. So those include things like denial, shifting blame, attacking your accuser, those kinds of things all fall into this classification of apologia. Like I said before, I collaborated with Dr. Matt Barton, who was instrumental in helping me with this. What we did was we analyzed 409 different apologetic statements and from 360 different contexts. And the reason this is significant is because most people, when they study apology, what they do is they go case by case. So you'll see hundreds of articles where people are like, I'm going to study Mel Gibson, I'm going to study Tiger Woods, I'm going to study Mike Tyson or Mike Leach or whatever it might be. But to this point, surprisingly to me, nobody has taken all these contexts and analyzed it as a collective whole to look for those patterns. So that's what we try to do. We took a convenient sample. We basically tried to find every apology that we could possibly find on the internet. Some of them weren't available, some of them were. We transcribed a bunch from video, and we just did our best to get everything we could find. Okay, so what we looked at the strategies they used, and I'm going to illustrate those in just a second. We looked at the context, so were they politicians, celebrities, athletes, or whatnot. We looked at the gender, whether they were male or female. We looked at dissemination methods. So are they tweeting their apologies? Are they doing press conferences? Are they doing press releases, web pages, whatever it might be? We looked at whether they were apologizing for themselves or if they were apologizing for someone else, which is kind of an interesting detail. And then we looked at the type of offense. So like I mentioned, drugs or alcohol, inappropriate comments or whatnot. Okay. So let me illustrate the primary strategies for you. There's somebody that you might recognize, and I have to tell you, I wish in real life it was that easy to make Charlie Sheen disappear, but apparently it's not. But these are the primary strategies that they use. Mortification, which is taking direct responsibility. Bolstering, which is emphasizing your more positive qualities to offset the damage. So you say, I may have run over that cat with my car, but I'm a good father. You see how it's not really related, but it's offsetting. And corrective action is where we take steps to try to alleviate the damage. Okay? So let me give you an example of mortification. This is John Kerry, as you might know. He, in 1988, he made a joke about Dan Quayle. A lot of people thought if Bush dies or is assassinated, we're going to be stuck with Dan Quayle, and that won't be so good. So John Kerry made a crack. He said, the Secret Service has been ordered, if President Bush is assassinated, they need to shoot Dan Quayle on the spot. I know, it's kind of funny, but it's not very nice either. And so here's what he says. He says, I shouldn't have repeated this story. It was inappropriate, and I apologize for doing so. Okay, so he's taking responsibility. Another example of mortification, this is Harry Whittington, a close friend of Dick Cheney. He went hunting with Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney accidentally shot him in the face. Yeah, and guess who's apologizing? Not Dick Cheney. Harry Whittington's apologizing for getting shot in the face, which I think is pretty interesting. So here's what he has to say.
My family and I are deeply sorry for all that Vice President Cheney and his family have had to go through this past week. We send our love and respect to them as they deal with situations that are much more serious than what we've had this week. And we hope that he will continue to come to Texas and seek the relaxation that he deserves.
Okay, so that one's kind of interesting. He's apologizing directly, so that's a mortification. Then we have the strategy of bolstering, which I alluded to earlier, which is where you offset with some self-praise, okay? And here Martha Stewart's apologizing for, or defending herself for, being involved in an insider stock trading scandal, okay? And she says, I've been choked and almost suffocated to death during this time, all the while more concerned about the well-being of others than for myself. So good for her. She's a nice person, so we should forgive her for her shortcomings. This one you might not remember. This is Patrick Doyle, the CEO of Domino's Pizza. He felt like he needed to account for a couple of employees who engaged in this prank where they uploaded a video to YouTube where what they were doing was they were sticking pieces of cheese up their noses and then putting them on the pizzas. And so obviously he felt the need to explain this one.
It sickens me that the actions of two individuals could impact our great system, where 125,000 men and women work for local business owners around the U.S. and more than 60 countries around the world. We take tremendous pride in crafting delicious food that they deliver to you every day.
Okay, so he's bolstering by saying Domino's Pizza takes pride in their food. Whether or not you actually agree that Domino's Pizza has delicious food, I know it's a staple of college students, but the strategy is to talk himself up to counter it. I heard somebody yell at the beginning, why is Walmart in trouble? What did they do? You know, I don't know what your attachment is to Walmart, but this is Mona Williams, Vice President of Corporate Communication. What she did was, well, she didn't do anything personally, but she's speaking on behalf of the company. I find this one really fascinating. They have an automated system where, based on your shopping habits, they recommend other choices. You've probably seen this on other websites like Amazon or whatnot. Anyway, people that purchased the DVD of Planet of the Apes were also recommended the Martin Luther King Jr. Documentary, okay, which is not good, okay. So she came out with a statement that says the offensive combinations have been identified, will be removed by this time. However, with thousands of items available, there are an almost endless number of possible combinations. Because of that, we will be shutting down our entire movie cross-selling system. Okay, so that's a corrective action. She's saying, we have a problem, it was a mistake, now we're going to do something about it. Okay, denial, easy, I didn't do it. Okay, that's what the strategy is. Some of you might recall this gentleman, Senator Larry Craig from Idaho. He was accused of soliciting sex from an undercover police officer in the Minneapolis airport. So apparently he moved his foot over while he was sitting in an adjacent stall, and then he claimed it was just a wide stance. So you have to wonder, oh, man, how far does your foot have to go over to be reaching into another stall? But he simply says, I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport. So that's a clear denial. Mark Furman is another example of this. He's the man that was accused of planting blood evidence in the O.J. Simpson trial. He says it would take hours to show the impossibility, the improbability, I mean the millions to one chance that anyone could plant one piece of evidence, let alone 450 pieces of evidence. Okay, so that's a good example of a denial. Attacking the accuser, this is a strategy where you try to impugn the credibility of the accuser. Okay, so you try to destroy their credibility. Okay, so Dow Chemical was a company that produced napalm during the Vietnam War, and so they were getting a lot of hate mail. So here's their director of PR. He says, for the past 2 years, we have been the targets of insults, curses, obscenities, abuse, bomb threats, stink bombs, and many other kinds of vilification. Some of my mail even comes addressed to the director of baby barbecuing. Okay? So what he's trying to do is he's trying to make his accusers look overzealous in what they're trying to do. That these aren't people that have a legitimate argument, they are people that are crazy, and they're sending me this hate mail. Okay? Another strategy is defeasibility. This is, you guys know who this is, right? He's hard to recognize if you know him from the Thriller days, but this is Michael Jackson dangling his baby over a balcony in Germany. He says initially he was trying to generate some excitement. So he says, I got caught up in the excitement of the moment. So did Michael Jackson generate excitement? I think he did, just not the kind that he was hoping to develop. Okay? Shifting blame is where we move the responsibility over to someone else. Winona Ryder was accused of shoplifting at the Saks Fifth Avenue store. She says, and I like this one a lot, my director instructed me to shoplift for a role I was preparing for. Which is a good one. She was fined. I think she was placed on parole, and to nobody's great surprise, her director was never charged with anything. So I don't know why. That was a good excuse. Accident is where you say that it was unintentional, you didn't mean for it to happen. I don't know if you can see this chyron below his face, but his name is actually Niger Innes. They added an extra G to Niger. Which is not too good, I don't think. Yeah. The things people do. But anyway, Greg Jarrett of MSNBC said, let me offer a profuse apology from this network. We accidentally